looks like we should be live now. Camera's up here. I make YouTube videos for a living, and I am not able to stare at the camera. Hey there. Sorry about the delay to the stream. I rolled my ankle really badly trying to get the computer set up so that I could actually do this. Ambulance. Trying to get the computer set up so I could do this because I'm on a Windows computer now. And so that was a bit of a hassle. But I'm here now. I have my beverage, and we can chat. So today's stream has a couple of topics. I'm going to be reflecting on 2022, which is exciting. I'm going to be talking about my top 10 videos that I've ever made, which is, rather exciting to me. And then I'm also going to be, I guess, doing a little Q&A and also talking about kind of what's the plan for 2023, if there is one, which there may not be. So sorry about the delay, and I'm here a little early. Actually, I said I would reschedule to 7, so I'll just probably hang around until then. Hi to everyone in the stream, or in the chat, I should say. Let me just look. Yeah, I was spending the last 2 hours icing my ankle. So, yeah, classic first aid. It was hilarious to see the comments people had on the original stream about, oh, the RMTransit train is delayed, or the RMTransit train is at a red signal. I really appreciated that. It was hilarious. How are you? I'm good with the sore ankle. That is all. Is there going to be another Q&A soon? I don't think so. Next year I'm probably going to only stream, I think, once every 2 months. It's just really exhausting to stream. Especially when you're making a lot of videos, which is not something I'm going to be doing all of next year. I'm really only doing that right now for December. I noticed a lot of people... Ooh. First person in the chat hidden. Anyways, opinions on Boston's MBTA. Rough. The chat is exhausting. Making a lot of videos because it is December. So I always make a lot in December. YouTuber things. Let's see. I do have to cover Manchester, UK. There's a local who I'm trying to work with to do that, but they're very busy, so it's a bit of a challenge. Cool poster on the kitchen wall. That's actually not a poster. It is 9 individual prints. All things transport store online. It's really good. That is really hot. Oh my god. I was going to burn my tongue on that. Yeah, that's rough. I heard that you met Downey Live, another YouTuber from Vancouver. Is that true? If you're not already, follow me on Instagram and Twitter, and you will know the answer to that. I also met with another railway YouTuber, both of whom you can find out about on my... I actually just realized something too. I didn't tag them. I need to tag them. Why didn't I tag them? Give me a second. I'm going to do that. Let's see. Where's the post? Here's the post. We gotta tag people. Let's go like this. Add a tag. Tag people. There we go. There's 1. There's 2. Beautiful. They have been tagged. So yeah, go check out my Instagram. Like my latest picture, and you'll have your answer to whether I met with Mike from Downey Live recently. Seeing some interesting messages here. At, let's say, 7:05, so in 5 minutes, once more people come into the stream, I'm going to get into the main topic of today's stream, which is my top 10 favorite videos I've made. Then after that, I will do a reflection on the year, YouTube, and all of that. And then for the last remainder of the stream, I'll just kind of chat. I'm not sure how long the stream will go. Probably going to try to keep it to like an hour, but we shall see. Yeah. Do you think you'll see the REM when it opens? As long as I don't injure myself and the trains are running. So yeah, it is iconic, isn't it? I love it. It's great. Do you think the Toronto... Well, it's not the metro, it's the subway. Should it be bigger, or is it fine as it is? I think there's only one correct answer to that. Of course it should be bigger. Any ideas for being started on transit planning jobs? I'm not sure about moving from Canada to the USA. Oh yeah, don't move to the US. Just get a job in Canada. There's tons of jobs in Canada with all of the projects going on. What do you think about the recent news on the Eglinton Crosstown? So yeah, I haven't talked about the delays. I think it's really hard to take the news seriously on the issue of covering transit projects with the way that stuff like Eglinton gets covered. A lot of the delay that was most recently announced was already announced, and this isn't something new. This is just something that was already happening, and there's there is an additional delay, but a lot of the delay was already happening, and it wasn't acknowledged that that was the case, which is very very frustrating. I just got to turn this onto mute so that it doesn't ring. There we go. So I think that's kind of my thinking on that. The Eglinton Crosstown is delayed, but it also wasn't really built in a way that was optimal for getting it done quickly. The tunneling started quite early, but then finished before other works had started, and so it delayed things a lot, and it wasn't optimized for being done quickly. And I think there's a good chance that the Finch line now opens before the Eglinton Crosstown, which is a little bit crazy because it started maybe 5 years after it, but it's a simpler project. So let's see. So we're almost at 7:05, and then I'm going to go through my top 10 videos, which I have put a lot of thought into ranking. Let's see. I don't know if I want to ever work in government, so that's my response to, will you go work at the Ministry of Transportation? Let's see. I can't, there's a lot of messages here, so I'm just going to kind of be selective on what ones I answer. Any plans to visit some Asian transit systems? Definitely, yeah. I really want to. Should I stop working as a software engineer in Silicon Valley and pursue urban planning as a second, more meaningful career, even if it seems to pay way less? I mean, how much do you want to enjoy what you're doing? I think that's the ultimate point of any job, right? Is to make money so you can enjoy what you're doing or enjoy your life. So if you can enjoy your job, then you don't need to be paid as much, right? If you're doing a miserable one, then you probably need to be paid more. So it's really up to you. I think it's definitely a possible career transition. So, super chat from Adam. Thanks, Adam. Happy holidays, Reese. I hope you enjoyed your time in New York. I did. It was really good. More videos with New York-related topics coming in the future. There should be a special one either Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. So, look forward to that. Almost at 7:05. Let's... Well, I would say that everyone in Toronto is impacted by the delays to Toronto Line 5. Someone's mentioning people being impacted. What happened to the Sao Paulo rapid transit video? People keep asking me what happened to X and Y video. I made a community post. I keep referring to it, but it was like 6 months ago. Just go back to that old community post and read it. I think it described it pretty well. Can I ask what your degree is in? I have a degree in computer science. Okay, just looking through these quickly. Will any videos from the collabs with Downey Live be coming to YouTube soon? No comment on that. Stay tuned to our socials. The Ontario line is supposed to cost like $11 billion, but the contracts signed are much more expensive. Why is that? The contracts signed are for the expensive parts of the project. So when there was news reporting on the total cost, there was this like extrapolation. So the downtown tunnel part was assumed to be the per kilometer cost of the entire line, which is obviously ridiculous. Not only does the downtown tunnel part have 2 subway interchanges and also the GO rail interchanges or interfaces on both the west and east sides of downtown, but it's mostly underground, right? So it's super expensive. So it's kind of just a misunderstanding of what's actually being discussed. The price has gone up, but inflation has been really high in the past 2 years, so you would have expected the price to go up. And given all of that, I think the price has not actually gone up as much as people are suggesting, and it's still a very good project. So that's my opinion on that. Someone says they enjoyed my Dawnline proposal from Substack. Go check out my Substack, rmtransit.substack.com. It's good. I think you'll enjoy it. So I'm gonna answer this last question, and then I'm gonna get into the top 10 videos I've made, the ones I'm most proud of, because I think it's kind of an interesting thing to discuss. So I brought up your video about rolling stock choice on Alan Levy's server, and they said that using light metro stock like SkyTrain Expo line. I'm not sure what the rest of your message is here, Craig. I appreciate the super chat. Okay, you might want to be careful. I think you may have accidentally... I'm trying to... okay. Thank you for the super chat, Greg. Or short, heavy rail stock like Canada Line or Guadalajara Line 3 for Seattle, Atlanta, and Miami is poor advice, and they should future-proof. I mean, how much you want to be future-proofed is really up to you and up to what you think your city should be doing. But I don't know if it seems like a strange thing to say since these cities have, well, Atlanta and Miami don't have light rail, but Seattle has light rail. So I think the argument that that it should have like heavy metro, well, sure, but it doesn't even have metro of any type right now, and so I just don't see what the I don't see what the well, I don't understand the logic there. Like it's higher capacity than the stuff that is being used right now, and I don't really believe that you need to use large trains to be future-proofed. Just build more lines. That's better future-proofing in my personal opinion. And even like Atlanta is big, but it's not a mega city, right? And same is true of Miami. I don't think they need, let's say Washington D.C. sized trains. I don't even think Washington D.C. needs Washington D.C. sized trains, and so that's kind of my opinion. The degree to which you should future-proof is definitely something that's super debatable, though, and there's a lot of local context there. So I'm going to go into the top 10. I'm going to address this super chat here. There's a reason. I'm just going to say, thank you for the super chat, but there's a reason that if people keep asking me a question and I'm not responding, maybe I don't want to talk about the question. So that's my comment on that. Thanks. So top 10 videos I've made on the channel, in my personal opinion, videos you may not have watched that I think you should take the time to watch. I'm actually grabbing them here because, okay, I accidentally just, What's... Okay, I think this is good. Uh, Basically, what videos are my top 10? Why do I like them? Why are they the videos that I personally enjoyed the most? YouTube has this weird thing to it, and it's not really different from, say, an essay when you're in school, where you might feel that sometimes you produced great work and your grade does not reflect that. And it's the same with YouTube and your views. You might work really hard on one video and it doesn't get a lot of views, and then other videos will get a ton of views, and that's really frustrating, right? So the first video that I'm really proud of, or that I just think covers a topic that is important, is the empty buses are okay video. I guess I'll send these to the chat so that if you haven't seen it, you can like bookmark it, or okay, that's not it. Let's grab this.
I think
Okay, so let's go like that and turn desktop audio down, and then what we can do is we can grab this and go like this. So this is the first one. The kind of point of this video is that people often don't understand the dynamics of transit, how it is different from driving, how it is different from the way private auto infrastructure works, and this is kind of the point of this video, to talk about that. I think, especially with empty buses, there's like some personal frustration because if you're someone who likes transit, or who has talked to family members or other people who are maybe less supportive of transit, something you'll often hear is things like, oh, like I saw the buses in our neighborhood, they're completely empty, and you have to bring that up and say, well, there's a reason that that's okay. Having empty buses means that you're providing a service. Now, if you have empty buses and really bad service, well, that's why they're empty. If you have frequent service with a few empty buses, that's just kind of the price of doing business. And so empty buses or empty trains, or not empty, but lightly used, are normal when you're running a frequent service. And they're, again, just the cost of providing a frequent service. And part of having the empty vehicles is encouraging people to use the system, and so you're kind of indirectly encouraging people who might get on other vehicles. And so empty vehicles, not a bad thing, unless it's for some specific reason. Your vehicle is dirty or not well maintained, but yeah, that's the number 10 pick. I will respond to one question each time, or something along those lines. I don't want to do a video dedicated to my top 10 because it feels like the type of thing people wouldn't watch. It's fun to do a stream of it because I can talk about it. I can kind of get into the semantics of transit when I am talking about it, but it doesn't work well as a video, in my personal opinion. Would you consider adding scales to maps you include in your video? That does make them a lot more complicated, especially because I am scaling my maps up and down all the time, and yes, there are ways you can handle that, but I just don't think it's that useful. I think like scale in a video, I just see that as kind of an encumbrance. Like, it's hard to... I don't actually use scales on maps that often. I just find that for me, it doesn't help with the perception of distance. I know that is the entire point of a scale, but that's not how I like to try to understand the distances that we're talking about. I would rather use it like a local reference, because what scale you understand changes from time to time, right? So if you move to one place, you might know a certain distance as the distance to walk to your local subway station, or something like that. And it could be much nicer to measure distances, in reference to that. Like, how many times that is it, so that you have something really fresh in your mind. And so scale's just, I don't know. And I think in a video, it doesn't look great. I think if people really want to get a sense for scale, go on Google Maps or something after watching my video, and kind of scroll around and look around. I think it will be more helpful. So that's my thinking on that. Now, the next video is, let me see here. Welcome to the Space Guy, who is a channel member. Consider becoming a channel member. It helps a lot, and I really appreciate it. Let's find this. It's kind of amazing. YouTube search, sometimes you can search something and it will just not come up. See if this will work. Yeah, Melbourne really needs to get its buses in order. Like, the infrequency of them is concerning. So the next one, number 9, so to speak, is this one. It is the Paris Metro Explainer. I think the Paris Metro is such an interesting system because so many assumptions people have about how transit systems work or how metro systems work are broken by the system. It has the turning loops. It has the non-automatically opening doors on the older rolling stock. It has automation. It has all kinds of different interesting elements. So I just love it. Of course, you also have the elevated portions of the Paris Metro in central areas of Paris, which, if you're talking to NIMBYs, one of the best tools to use is just the classic, yeah, well, like in central Paris they have elevated rail and central Paris is fine. People might not always love living right next to it, but it adds character to the city. It's part of what makes it special. The same way that the Rome Metro is only like 30 meters under the Colosseum. Like, oh, if you need to go deeper for NIMBYs, that seems a little crazy, because if the Colosseum is fine with the train 30 meters under it, why aren't NIMBYs? So I really like this video. I like explainers a lot. I like making them. I think if I could summarize my YouTube channel, the goal of my channel is to be incredibly global in reach. I want people who watch my channel to be familiar with transit as a universal thing. As a thing that is actually very similar from city to city, but with some unique quirks here and there. And so having that kind of ability to cross-compare between different systems and understand the similarities and differences, I think just makes you much more informed and a better advocate, commentator, understander of transit. And so that's why I love making those videos so much. So that is number 8. Just monitoring this. Go here. Greetings from Germany. Greetings to you from Canada. I think I posted that. Let me see. Yes, I did. Let me go like this. I do agree. The Toronto subway should market the Red Rocket thing. It is unique, like the Underground. I think Toronto does a really bad job at wayfinding and marketing. This is the kind of thing that... So sometimes I'm very frustrated in Toronto, but I'm not sure how productive is complaining, right? I should say hi CDLTO. I'm not sure how productive complaining is, but Toronto can be such a frustrating place, and I think the TTC, our local transit agency, is doing a horrible job with wayfinding and kind of branding of the system right now. I think it's very hard for people to understand it, and I think that's bad. It makes the system harder to use and worse. So it's something that we really need to fix. So here we go. We've got Downey live in the chat. Nice to see you, Mike. It's funny. Your video about S-Bahn in Munich was great. Well, thank you. So let me share the next video here. This one I'm pretty proud of as well. It is the Istanbul Metro Explainer. Istanbul is one of those cities that I really wanted to create an explainer video for, because almost no one is familiar with it, but I think it's such an informative system. If you saw my Guadalajara video I made a few days ago, that system has, like, it's a metro, right? It uses these light rail trains, but it's a metro effectively. And Istanbul has similar, I think M1 and maybe M2. No, I think it's just M1. M1 and maybe like T something, T1 or something, are high floor light rail lines in Istanbul. I think it's really interesting to see how they've kind of made the transition of that into proper full metro, and I think that's really cool. I don't know why I didn't dismiss that pinned message since I'm here now doing the stream. But yeah, the Istanbul one is one I love a lot. Someone is saying, "Did you watch the World Cup?" No, I did not. I'm not a sports person. What can I say? If you want a cities-based YouTuber who's into sports, you should go check out City Nerd. He's quite into sports from what I can tell. But yeah, just not really my thing. I think, yeah, I spend too much time on YouTube. When will Istanbul have a second rail crossing of the Bosphorus? I forget what it's called. I can't believe I forget what it's called. I mentioned it in the video, the Istanbul Metro video, but they're planning like a second express metro type system across the Bosphorus that connects. It's very much like a Seoul GTX / Delhi RRTS / some of the express metro systems in China. I think it's really interesting. So yeah, that's what they're planning, I think, for the next crossing of the Bosphorus. With the news earlier this week, which transit project are you most excited for in North America in the coming years? Well, if Canada ends up getting high-speed rail, that would be really cool and exciting. That's super exciting to me. I think it's kind of a split between that and the Ontario line in Toronto, which I think is just really impactful because Toronto is a big city, it's growing a lot, and having another downtown subway line will just really help. It'll make it easier to get around the city. So I think it's somewhere between those. I do think high-speed rail for Canada be a huge deal. It would make it so easy to get between Toronto, Montreal, and Ottawa. And so, yeah, I think that one would be super impactful, and it would make traveling around much of Canada very easy. So that's my thinking. The next video, this is number, I can't believe I'm counting, number 7 video, top video in my personal opinion that I've made, is the Singapore explainer. I know there's a lot of explainers in this list, but I think that my explainers are some of my favorite videos I've made. And the Singapore one is special for me, is particularly special for me because it's just so interesting. It's got all of the underground lines. It's quite innovative in a number of different ways. All of that makes it just unique. The underground depots I love. The cross-platform interchanges, few less than Hong Kong, but still a lot. It's all very exciting to me. So Singapore, really enjoy. I do want to travel to Singapore maybe in 2023. Next time I'm in Asia, I'll try to travel to Singapore, I think. So we shall see. Okay. So I need to say thank you to Pierre for the super chat. And Pierre is teaching transit theory at Polytechnique Montreal. I would love to see the class. That sounds very cool. I'll probably be in Montreal at some point. I'll need to stop by because that sounds super cool. So, yeah, more power to you for teaching the transit leaders of tomorrow. I really appreciate that, and I think we need more people in the transit space who are passionate about transit and for whom it is more than a job, but it is a true passion. That's the case for me. I care a lot about this stuff. There's a reason, like, people ask, how do you make so many videos? And it's like, well, it's a lot of fun for me. I do like talking about public transportation and metro systems and all of this stuff. And so it's a lot of work and it's tiring, but it's fun. Oh, your class is in French. That sounds like a fun challenge. I can understand a little bit of French. Let's go on to the next one. So now we're at number 6. So the rest of these, they change. You'll notice that there's a bit of a trend here. But yeah, I definitely do think it's true what CDLTO is mentioning here. We need passionate people in transit. So if you're watching this video or this stream and you're not working in the transit industry, it's a good industry. You should work in it. there's a lot of demand for people to get into it. So yeah, I gotta write down this class number so I can go. Well, I wrote it down, so now I've got it. Let's see, I gotta grab the link for the next video here. Should Australia get high-speed rail or not? I don't know. Sharing strong opinions about Australia has got me in trouble in the past, so I don't know if it's a good idea, but maybe I should. I think Australia is a country that could and should do high-speed rail, but that's just my personal opinion. Did you study something that's transit-specific? Me personally, no, I did not. I studied computer science. I said earlier in the chat. But I don't think you need to. I think, well, to be fair, too, I do think computer science is kind of relevant to every industry and topic, but no, I didn't. And yeah, I think that's fine. Number 6 video, drumroll, is the Cities Skylines IRL video. So this one is talking about the Toronto Portlands development, where there's basically a new river being built in central Toronto to help prevent floods, to open up new land for development and new housing, and create kind of a whole new neighborhood and create a bunch of new park space. It's just a very cool project. I loved actually being able to go on the ground and walk in the river valley. That's one of those cool things about getting a tour, a behind-the-scenes tour of something like that, or a transit project, is you get to stand in places. This is always the thing I comment to people. Oh, like, you're standing in this place, you're never going to be able to stand in this place again, unless we stop using this river, which is very unlikely, or transit line. So you get these experiences that are very fleeting. They only exist for a few years while something is under construction, and then they're gone. And so it was really cool to see all the work going on. It was cool to hear how extensively they've thought everything out. It was cool to see the transit priority corridors being designed into the neighborhood from the beginning, and the bike lanes, and the tunnels for getting utilities under the waterways and all that. It was just a cool project overall, and so very cool. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, that was one of my. It was a cool video that I got to make that wasn't specifically just about transit, but was about, you know, cool project going on in Toronto. So I was really proud of that. Someone is saying favorite programming language. So I need to think about this for a second. I really do like Python. Pretty lame answer, I know. I TA'd a class that was Python, so I've spent a lot of time teaching people how to program in Python. I did like a Haskell class in university. Didn't like Haskell. I liked the idea of it, but it was just the syntax is just so confusing, in my personal opinion. I like functional. Like, I think functional programming is super interesting. I just think that, I don't know, the way Haskell communicates it, I don't love. I like the way JavaScript communicates various functional things far more. Yeah, so well, I don't consider HTML a programming language, but this is completely not relevant to the topic. So I need to share the next video here, but I think there was a question I wanted to respond to. Any thoughts on the expansion of cross-border rail service between US and Canada? I think we should do so, but I think we need to be sensible about it. I think that, for example, the train to New York right now from Toronto is very silly. It's like a 12-hour train ride. It should just be a night train. I think having like a modern... Yes, the Python programming language is just adding to the end of everything. The New York to Toronto train would be so great as a modern sleeper train, like the OBB Nightjet, like the new design pod type train thing they showed off recently. If we did that, I'd be going to New York every weekend. It's just so cool. So I think being more sensible with what we're doing would be helpful, but I think that it's cool to see that we're all standardizing around all using chargers and things like that. So that's pretty cool. So that's my opinion on that. And they are restarting some services, as Tim mentioned. So let's go here and grab the next one. So if you're not opening up these videos, you should be, because you're missing out, because some of these ones are true classics. This one is, if you haven't seen this one, I don't know what to say. This is from 5 years ago. This is one of the first videos I put up on my channel. It's one of the only early videos I put up on my channel that actually has a respectable number of views. It's over 100,000, which is respectable in my books for my channel. This video is not anything super special or amazing. I'm just kind of looking at it here. It's just some shots of the various trains in the video. But actually, when I put it out, I remember searching YouTube, and there just was not a lot of good video of the Montreal Metro. So I just took out my phone, put it in 4K. I think this is 4K. Oh my goodness, it's only 1080p. Put it in 1080p, pointed my phone at the trains, and then just filmed them. I will say, since I started making YouTube videos, again, link in the video, link in the chat. I can't believe I'm saying link in the video description, but that just shows you I'm incredibly YouTube brained. I've just spent too much time making YouTube videos, and now all I can think about is being on YouTube. Let's see. Yeah, the idea that you could find video of any transit system in the world on YouTube was not a thing 5 years ago. If you looked up a lot of systems, there would be no video, or maybe one really bad video. So one of the biggest changes we've seen on YouTube in the last, I guess, 5 years, basically, is that now you can get video of everything. Like any transit system, basically, in the world, even some really obscure ones, you can find videos about. Thanks to creators, I wouldn't really say myself. I haven't done that much traveling to obscure places, but hey, I think I contributed with some decent Montreal Metro videos. But people like the Tim Traveler and Tom Scott have gone along and visited a lot of really obscure systems. I think Tateset visited the what's it called? The ski tube in Australia. So a lot of interesting systems out there now have videos about them. And I think that's so exciting. Like all of this stuff that's so fascinating, a lot of these systems end up closing because they're kind of non-standard and weird. All of that's kind of cataloged and stored in video format. And you can imagine old stuff, old transit systems that are gone now, or like extinct species, right? Which is kind of sad and depressing. But imagine it. Right now, we often only have like a written record. Maybe you have some photos. How cool would it be if you had videos, right? So I think that's one really cool element of YouTube, is capturing the way things were in the past, and then being able to look back at that and see it in the future. So I'm really excited for that. I think my channel will have some value for that, since I've covered so many construction projects and the like. So the Montreal Metro one is it's one of my top 10. I think it's my 5th, I said, right? Have you ever met transit planners in Toronto / the Greater Toronto Area who have told you that your videos have influenced any real changes in the region's transit plans? Real changes? Sadly, probably not, but I definitely know lots of people in transit in Toronto watch my videos, and I mean, maybe. There's probably been something. It's one of those things where I see my job as spreading and sharing information, and so I'm sure it has an impact. It's just not always directly visible. It's sort of like a pipeline, right? And I'm at one side of the pipeline, and actual policy and things that happen are here, and what I do fans out, and I'm sure it has an impact. It's just it's very hard to say what the direct impact was. I try to, bring attention to various things. I've sent emails to counselors and the TTC, and I've sent emails to Metrolinx, and when I see them doing something good, like a transit agency doing something good, I tweet about it, and when I see them doing something annoying, I tweet about it. I was recently tweeting about how it's annoying to me that in Toronto, when you get to the main station on a streetcar, it says Via Rail and Up Express. But it doesn't mention the subway, which is from the same transit agency as the streetcar, and then at the same time, it doesn't mention the GO trains, which are the main users of Toronto's main station, Union Station. So I try to just point these things out because some people will see them, they'll think about it, maybe they'll comment to their counselor or to the TTC, and other people who work at these transit agencies do watch my videos, so they at least, they see, maybe they'll change things, maybe they won't, but what can I say? That's what I try to contribute. being a transit commentator is not always fun in Toronto. It can be very frustrating, but it's what I do. So, c'est la vie. Grab this because this is the next video. Basically, every transit channel is based in Canada. I don't know if I'd say that, but there are a lot of transit channels in Canada, which is cool. So, let's drop in the next one. What number is this? This is number 4, which is impressive. So number 4, my 4th favorite video I've made of all time. My 4th favorite video of all time is the Vancouver by train video. If you haven't seen this video, still, it's like it's one of my favorites I've ever made. As the point of me releasing it here, I basically just ride around the SkyTrain and point stuff out and talk about the system and its impact on me and what I find interesting about it. And I think it's a really fun video. It's 40 minutes long, so it's much longer than most of my videos, but it's kind of just a fun, chilled out watch. You know, grab some ice cream or takeout or something, and then just sit down and casually listen to me talk about transit. So yeah, that's Vancouver by trains. I have more comments about some of these than others. I've talked about Vancouver by trains many times and said that it's a video that almost got me to stop doing YouTube because it did so badly at first. Now it's at like 100,000 views, so cool. But yeah, it's a video I'm really proud of. What I will say is that Sheem says here, channels like yours and others push me to get into urban planning, and I'll be entering an urban planning course in 2024. A lot of people have said things like that to me, and that's honestly so satisfying to hear. Very exciting. Love it. It's excellent. Makes me so happy. So yeah, that's an impact I'm really happy to have. Let's grab the next video here. Just watching this. Just trying to monitor the chat here periodically. It's nice to see video of you in the bus simulator. That was a lot of fun. Opinions on LA Metro is just that it's not very good, right? It needs so much work, and there's a lot of things they could do better, but I don't know if they'll happen. I'm not that confident in the system. It's a case of I actually have a video planned on LA Metro. Maybe I'll just kind of spoil it here because there's only a few of us here in this stream, 150 of us. I can spoil it because you thankfully came to the stream and I appreciate it. So basically, I read this article. I don't know what it was. It was in like some major-ish newspaper a few years ago talking about LA, and they were kind of talking about how there's this urban transformation going on. There's all these different transit projects happening, and how, you know, there's bike share and there's all these things, and it was very like it was a very optimistic article that was written, and I don't necessarily think that I don't blame them for being optimistic, but it was interesting to see the way that someone who maybe doesn't actually understand what LA is building could kind of be super excited about it. And not even just super excited, but they're kind of talking about how it's going to be transformative and all of that. And I don't think that's the case. I don't think LA Metro's expansion is going to be all that transformative because LA Metro does things like run trains every 20 minutes on its subway. It's just, you can build as much as you want, but when your policy is that bad, building more stuff isn't going to save you. And the plans, like the transit plans in LA, are just so disintegrated. I talk about like Mexico City, and I'm like, Mexico City needs to get better with its planning and not have these suburban rail lines. But Mexico City's planning is way better than Los Angeles planning. And Los Angeles is spending a ton of money, and Mexico City is not doing very much expansion. So LA may actively be wasting a lot of money. I mean, it's always good to have more transit, but when it's built in such a suboptimal way, right, you could build it in a better way for less money. And so, yeah, the money is being wasted on a lot of projects that are really poorly planned and designed. And, like, for example, someone's mentioning the LA Summer Olympics. I don't want this to become a rant about LA, but mini rant on LA coming out. LA put the stadium for the Summer Olympics and for the Super Bowl and for the, I believe, the World Cup finals also being played there, SoFi Stadium. They put it in a place with no rail access. LA is giant. There are so many giant lots that they could put a stadium on where it would have rail access, but they put it in a place with no rail access. And so now they're talking about building, like a people mover from the Crenshaw LAX line, which has all of its own problems, to the stadium. So, like, just as with downtown LA, if you want to go to the stadium from the airport, you'll have to change trains 2 times, which is crazy. It's just, LA feels like an example of basically transit virtue signaling. Like, we're building a lot of transit, but we won't actually run the transit in a way that anyone with a choice would use it. And it's very upsetting. And people who do use it and who are forced to use it, because I think if you aren't forced to use it, I don't think there's a really good reason to, because it's generally not very good. They're being punished, and it's horrible. So yeah, LA upsets me a lot, and yeah, it's frustrating. So someone's mentioning the TTC subway, CDLTO actually, is mentioning that the TTC subway avoided the ridership decreases of the surface network by implementing a 5 minutes or better policy. So that if the subway is running, you'll never have to wait more than 5 or 6 minutes. And yeah, it's true. It's great. Is LA better than Toronto transit planning? No, it's way worse. Toronto is far better than LA on transit planning. Yeah, it's incredibly rough. So yeah, that's my opinion of LA. I don't think, did I actually share? Don't think I shared my. Let me see if I can. Oh my, that may not be good. Okay, I just clicked on the link that I put in the chat, and I was worried that, and it took me to the web page in like this weird window, and I almost lost the chat. Okay, well, we're all good now. Let's get to our number 3. Oh, let's close this. Let's get to our number 3 video here. My number 3 is this one. This is my future of rapid transit and streetcars in Toronto. The reason I wanted to put this one in is it's kind of just an example of how far the channel has come. If you watch it, I'm not saying it's bad, and I always have been passionate, and I think the video makes its points fine, but it's not as attractive as the newer videos. The animations are non-existent. The maps look much worse. Just compare this to something newer, and you'll see the difference is really night and day. And so yeah, this is kind of a good video in the sense that it reminds me how far the channel has come. But I also do think it's quite comprehensive, so worth a watch. You can learn about it. Yeah. Someone is saying, CDLTO, if you live here, you will see that it often comes less than every 5 minutes. I don't really agree. I feel like on the TTC subway, for the most part, you do legitimately only wait about 5 minutes at the worst. It's very rare that it's worse than that. And if it is, sure, maybe there's a disruption, but that's a disruption. It's exceptional circumstances. So yeah, but my number 3 video is this Toronto's Transit Future one, which I'm very passionate about. Yeah. So I actually want to push back on a comment here in the chat, which says that because Toronto is terrible uh, at expanding the subway and LRTs, I don't agree. Toronto is doing a ton of expansion right now. I don't think Toronto's really terrible at expansion any more than any other city is terrible at expansion, really. Like, I really just don't think it's worse than other cities. And at the same time, the idea that, oh, this area is only accessible by buses and that's bad, I don't agree with that. I used to live in part of Scarborough that had no rail at all. Took the bus every day. Was the bus longer than I'd like? Yes, but I never had to wait more than 5 minutes, basically, for a bus to show up, and that was awesome. It made it very convenient to go anywhere I wanted in the city, and it was a level of freedom I had never experienced with buses before. And so, yeah, I'm not negative on the buses in Toronto. I think they are quite excellent. So, yeah, let's pop back over here so I can share the number 2 video, which it was a very special video for me to make, and I hope I get to make a follow-up of some sort sooner or later. Let me share it here. This is number 2. This is on the new Via Rail trains. So the reason that this is cool is kind of multifaceted. For one, it was the first non-Brightline full train set of the Siemens Charger and Venture combination that Amtrak is getting, Ontario Northland is now going to be getting, Via Rail is obviously getting. So it was really cool to be one of the first people to see what is the kind of new modern train that's going to be rolled out across North America on all of these government operators. And it was cool that I got invited. Shout out Via Rail. You don't do everything right, but I appreciated being invited, and I think that, like, from a media perspective, that made a lot of sense. It was cool to be able to see them, to experience how much nicer they are than our older trains. They're also available. You can ride one now. It's just that it's not official, or it's not public what trains are actually going to be operating those services. And so what you basically end up with is you're kind of trying to guess at which service is operating a new train, which is a bit annoying. I think it would be nice if people could specifically book the new train, because I think people would, and I think Via could even charge a slightly higher fare or something. So the Via Rail video, I'm really proud of. It was cool to make it, but at the same time, and I think people maybe will appreciate this, the Via Rail video took Via Rail, of course, to Ottawa the night before the event, got there, morning of, pretty early, got out, filmed the train, went to the press event, asked some questions, sat with the other journalists. I'm not officially a journalist. I don't have journalist credentials, but got to sit with all the journalists, and then afterwards got straight on a train, and then immediately started writing a script, sending the clips back home to Toronto, and then when I got home, just edit for like 2 hours, release the video same day. It was incredibly intense, but a ton of fun, and yeah. I do agree that Via is expensive, but if you charge $10 premium for the nicer train for now, it'd be fine, I think. People would pay the extra just to know which train is the newer train. I think it's silly, but I'm just saying that it would be better than the current situation. Let's go here. Hilariously, someone is asking if I will ever do a Disney World transit video. That's very funny that you ask, because I will be mentioning Disneyland Transit in a video very soon, but I'm not sure I will do a Disneyland Transit video because I'm kind of skeptical that it's actually all that good, but yeah. I should say thank you, Steve, for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Steve says, what are your thoughts or concerns on doing an explainer or analysis video on the commuter rail agencies in New York City? It's just one of those things when you talk about New York City and you say, hey, like maybe it should be more like this, people will say it's impossible, but that's not true. New York needs to change a lot of things, improve a lot of things. It'll be a while until I do the commuter rail agencies. It wasn't really a focus when I was in New York. I was focusing more on the subway. There may be a subway video coming soon. But yeah, I'll talk about the commuter rail agencies, or regional rail agencies, as I prefer to call them, in the future, probably in 2023. I've been saying a lot of videos are going to come in 2023, but yeah, it'll be a time or a year when I can actually focus on doing some videos that people have been requesting for a long time. So that's my thinking on that. Someone's saying, can we reuse some of the TBMs to tunnel under Dundas College? The TBMs could be reused technically. That is a thing that happens. Would we reuse them? Probably not. It seems like it's not something we're very interested in doing. They're also very much specialized to certain soil types, so I'm not sure what the differences could be between the soil under Eglinton and under College or Dundas, but it's legitimately possible that there is just a different soil composition at the optimal depths for drilling, and so unclear, but yeah. And now, the number one video that, in my opinion, I have ever made on this channel. I'll do a bit of a drum roll again. I will also mention that after this, I'm going to talk a bit about reflecting on 2022 and doing some brief Q&A before wrapping the stream up at some point. So yeah, prepare your questions. But the number one video that I have made on this channel is the Crossrail video. I just shared it, so you can go check it out if you haven't seen it. A lot of people haven't seen it because it's not even my most viewed video, which really surprises me. I find that was one of my favorite videos I've made, and it was so cool to be able to go to a launch of a new transit service in a different country, and one that's as significant as the Elizabeth Line. I mean, I think the Elizabeth Line will be by far the most used rail service in the UK, and it seems possible that it could become like the most used rail service in Europe. Like, it seems conceivable. I know the RER is obviously super heavily used, but I don't know. It just seems possible to me. Given the Elizabeth Line is really well optimized for high capacity and the like. So yeah, I think the video was really fun to make. It was an intense process going to line. Actually, maybe I should do it behind the scenes of how I did it. I got to meet Jeff Marshall. That was really fun. Got to be in a Jeff video. I'm sure we'll collab again in the future at some point when I'm either in London or Jeff is in Toronto. But I think it would all be. I think it was a lot of fun. The day I arrived in London, it was just got to go around to all the stations, film the exteriors, film what parts of the interiors that I could actually film. It was a ton of fun, and it felt like, wow, we are incredibly hardcore here, going around and filming. It's nuts. And staying overnight at Paddington, I don't know how many people have done that, but it was miserable. It was raining, even though it was May. It was quite the time. It was so cold that we would like periodically go inside. And by inside, I don't really mean inside. Like, Paddington is not enclosed. There's no inside. It's just undercover. Would go inside and like sit on the bench and just like shiver because nothing was open. There wasn't even like a McDonald's open near Paddington, which was crazy to me. The McDonald's right near Paddington was not 24 hours, which would be unthinkable in Canada or North America in general. So yeah, maybe we have something on you folks across the pond. But it was freezing cold, so brutal. I got to meet some other transport YouTubers. Jago, obviously. I was in Jago Hazard's video. That was fun. And I also I got to meet like Sadiq Khan and Andy Byford because they were there for the launch too. So it was all in all a really fun time, and something I'm proud that I went to London to do. And so yeah, it was a ton of fun. It was a ton of fun. Yeah. So that's my favorite video I've made on the channel of all time. Unthinkable in Australia too. McDonald's not being open 24/7. Yeah, isn't it weird? One thing I did feel about the UK, this is totally random, but hours. Even in New York too, when I was recently in New York, I was disappointed how many things were closed. Like how many stores were closed at 7 p.m. What? In Toronto, that's an issue too, but in London, it was just bad. I think one night I needed to go to a pharmacy, and I I tried to go everywhere. I was like traveling all throughout London to try to find a pharmacy at like 10 p.m. and it was very difficult to find a place that was open, which is just crazy to me in a major city that nothing is open at night. And I think the weekends too, it was kind of rough. So yeah, can you post your list? Yes, I can. I think. Let me go like this. What do you think? Oh, I tried to send it, and okay, well, it didn't format it correctly, but there's my list. Sorry, it's kind of weird. I'm just gonna pin it. That's fun and nice, cool, wonderful. Um, okay, so that is pinned. So that was the main subject of today's video, but I also just want to reflect on 2022, which I guess I'm kind of doing by talking about the Crossworld video, since that was a video I made this year. 2022 is really good. I got to 100,000 subscribers, and I didn't really celebrate it, which made me sad because I was so busy making tons of videos and just like, oh no, 100,000. Well, no, we need to get to 150,000 now, and the numbers definitely matter less over time. It feels like I feel like the YouTube size scale or number of subscriber scale feels like the Ken continuum. Hey Ken, nice to see you here. I noticed on a recent trip to Vancouver that everything closed a lot earlier than in Toronto. I would say it does close earlier than in Toronto, but compared to London even, I think Vancouver is probably not as bad. London was rough. Let me see. Yeah, when I hit 100K, kind of was very distracted and probably should have spent more time celebrating it. But I think that YouTube, the size you feel your channel is like kind of logarithmic. So basically my point is that your growth feels significant, and there's a diminishing return on how significant your size of your channel feels. So getting to 100,000, I imagine, feels more significant than getting to 1 million, just in terms of size, because a lot of the stuff that you notice from being a fairly large YouTuber, I think increases quite rapidly initially, and then it decreases quite rapidly. You know, it's a logarithmic curve. So I think that's kind of an interesting thing to think about. Yeah, I do get the sense that Europe is sleepy in general, and I don't like that. I'm a person who likes to do things at odd times. I don't often like going out in the middle of the day. I would rather go like late at night or early in the morning, and I think that, you know, you would hope with all of the automated checkout things and stuff like that, we would have more of a 24-hour economy, especially because, as someone is mentioning here, P-Bin is mentioning, London is a significant city, so it's just weird, and London has the night tube and all of this this stuff that would suggest to you that there's going to be a lot of 24-hour stuff, and yet it just doesn't feel like there is, and so that's kind of strange. I actually think that there's an interesting question to be made about whether, you know, in a world with more work from home, and I know this is very cliche to say, like everyone's like, in a world with more work from home, but in a world with more work from home, you know, maybe it makes sense to run just more limited 24-hour services, like run end frequent service earlier and run 24-hour service, or maybe run less service in the middle of the day and run 24-hour service. Yeah, the fact that stuff is closed on Sunday everywhere in Europe is crazy too. Not everywhere, but in many places in Europe is crazy. Though Toronto used to be pretty bad about that too. Not recently, but historically Toronto was pretty bad about this. But yeah, I like things being open a lot because I go at random times. YouTube has no set schedule, and that's one of the weird things about YouTube is there's nothing that, besides I guess releasing videos, there's nothing that makes you feel like you need to release a video at a certain time, or do something at a certain time, write a video at a certain time. I've written videos at like 2 a.m. I've written videos right before I make the video, right before I've recorded. I've written videos a year before I've recorded them. So it's really weird. What are your thoughts on Metrolinx trying out or leasing different train sets in the future, or do you feel like these ones are sufficient? I don't think they're going to be leasing different train sets. That doesn't seem likely in North America. Um, I don't think the buy levels are sufficient for like an S-Bahn style service, but I think up to like 15-minute service, I think the buy levels are fine. I think that they should enhance the interiors of them though. There's almost no digital displays, which it's fine when this is just kind of a sleepy commuter railway, but for like a rapid transit or a relatively frequent service, you need better digital displays on your trains. You shouldn't, and they shouldn't just be where are you going and what is the current station. Like, okay, that was what metro systems had in 2000. I want to know where I'm going, what the next several stations are, how long until I get to the stations. GO trains are gigantic, so it's especially relevant to have, oh, where is the entrance I'm looking for? Siren. Where is the entrance I'm looking for from the platform? That would be useful information to provide. And the fact that that isn't provided isn't great. I think the seating layout in the GO trains just isn't good. I think that there should be a mix of the quad seats and the just regular commuter seating that you see in trains in other places in the world where the seats are all facing the same way, or just do what they do in some cities like Sydney and in New York, etc., and have flippable seats. Not every rail service in these cities has it, but a lot of rail services in both of these cities have it. Yeah, so yeah, it is interesting how late restaurants in Chinatown and Toronto stay open compared to New York. But I would say that and maybe this is just a perception thing. New York Chinatown doesn't feel like it's near all of that much. Like it's kind of in a weird bit of a dead zone in Manhattan, where there isn't a ton of people living, versus a place like the meatpacking district, for example, where you kind of have Chelsea right next door. At least that was my perception, kind of walking around Chinatown in the past. But yeah. Let me see this. Why do you think Chicago hasn't used Metra for their express to O'Hare Airport? Metra is connected to the airport, but only goes there 5 times a day. I think calling it connected is generous because it connects to like one of the parking lots. It's like actually quite far from the terminals themselves. I think it's just a case of transit is just not a priority. A freight rail is a priority in Chicago, and you just don't see. Metra is just not great, in my opinion. There's obviously some lines have okay service, but the rolling stock isn't great. The infrastructure looks really rough, and it's not very modern or well maintained. It kind of just feels like the Chicago L, but a little worse. So I think it's just kind of a cultural thing within the transit agencies. Like they're happy with what they're doing today, and they don't feel a need to improve that. And so it's unfortunate, but I think it'd be hard for me as an outsider to say why it is, but that's my perception of how these things generally work. Do you think the young subway can handle the extra riders after the extension to Richmond Hill? I mean, probably. I think the Ontario line is going to relieve some ridership. Hopefully, GO will relieve some ridership if GO is operating a good service. Hopefully, ATC, more frequent trains, helps service, and hopefully the expansion of Bloor Yonge and other stations also helps. What are your thoughts? So for thoughts on passenger and staff safety, it's just so hard to say. I mean, I think that it's critical that transit be safe or people won't use it, and that will lead to death spiral of safety. Less people, more unsafe feeling, and so that is not great. With regarding to videos that from other folks that we should watch, I love a lot of different YouTube channels, but I actually don't watch transit YouTube at all. So I can talk about general YouTube stuff I enjoy, but I don't watch transit YouTube, and it's just one of those things where, and I do talk to people about transit a lot, but with transit YouTube, it's just one of those things where you spend so much time doing that thing, you don't want to watch more of it. That's not to say I don't watch the Select Not Just Bikes or Alan Fisher video. I just don't watch every single one because, these are meant to be informative videos. And if you're making videos on the same topics, you're probably informed. So that's my opinion on that. What are the best places to stay up to date with transit news from around the world? I don't think there's a single good place. I just go on Twitter for that, and I feel like Twitter is actually really good for that. So, yeah, that's my opinion on that issue. Do you watch sci-fi and fantasy? Any favorite fictional transit systems? I don't think I have a strong feeling on fictional transit systems. The like monorails from the original like Batman Begins are kind of fun. What else is there that's kind of fun? I saw Avatar recently, and there was kind of a transit system in that. I don't have strong feelings about fictional stuff because I just like real transit systems that actually exist and that I could potentially use or benefit from. Bloor-Young unloading and loading is a limit to headways on the Young line. The rebuild will help greatly with this issue. Yeah, I definitely think so, but I also think it's really important to expand the other stations because we're so focused on Bloor-Young, but the other stations are also super congested. I don't think anyone has the best content, and I don't think it's helpful to say this person is cringe, this person isn't good. Ultimately, people can be the judge of one's content and the stuff one is saying by watching the video. And I think if you don't like it, just don't watch the videos. That's my opinion. Best places to take a vacation from transit vacation from Toronto if you like cities in transit. Montreal for sure. Yeah, or Vancouver. I guess you could fly, but Montreal you get to take the train. You can take a train to Vancouver, but you will not arrive for probably like a week. So. On the note of Twitter, have you been looking at alternate social media sites with all the havoc being wreaked? I like Twitter. I don't really. I think it's kind of everyone's. It's sort of like just drama. The site still works. People were saying the site's going to stop working. It's annoying, and it would be great if we didn't make decisions based on polls. But I'll stay on Twitter until it stops working, or if I get blocked for sharing YouTube videos or something, then yeah, I won't use it anymore. I'm not really looking for alternate social media. When you become a creator, you kind of find that there's a lot of energy that goes into building up a presence on a social media platform, and so there's a really big cost to moving from one platform to another, which, yeah, sure, that's like a benefit that Twitter has over people who are on it. But yeah, it's stressful and tiring to move to a new platform, and so I'm not going to move unless I feel like I really need to. I'm already on Instagram, and I have my Substack, and I have a website, so it's not like I'm not on any other platforms online. It's just that I feel like getting off Twitter is not gonna be that helpful for me. Who has the better train systems, Canada or Australia? I really believe it that they're just different. So Australia has like a lot of suburban rail. Canada has a lot of urban rail. I think that they're pretty evenly matched. The suburban rail is helpful for things like intercity. I think that probably gives the Aussies an edge because they're familiar with how heavy trains should work, and a lot of Canadian cities just don't have any kind of mainline train service, like Calgary and Edmonton, for example. They don't. Ottawa doesn't really. Like, it doesn't have a true commuter rail service. Obviously, Kitchener-Waterloo kind of does, but it's one of those things that there's probably more cross applicability to the suburban rail to intercity rail than there is from like metros to intercity rail, and so I think that probably helps. Wait, but yeah, ultimately I think you're sort of tempted to say, oh, like Canada's better or Australia's better. I just don't think that there's a clear winner. I do think that service outside of rail is worse in Australia, which I think is a problem. That's not to say that there's no good bus services. Like obviously Brisbane, for example, has pretty solid bus services. But when you look at like the suburban bus services in Sydney and Melbourne, it's shocking how infrequent they are, and that sort of reminds me of America a bit. Like America and Australia kind of feel very similar to me in that way, where often the rail is okay, it's decent. The rail is better in Australia than in America. But maybe I would say, okay, no, it's still so. Australia has like the best American cities level of rail infrastructure, but it's kept in better shape, and the rolling stock is way better and more modern. Like I love the Waratahs and the high capacity metro trains and the aren't they called the NGRs in Brisbane? I love those. I love the new Adelaide trains. And I love the new Perth trains. I think that the quality of the stuff that Australia has is really good. It's just that sometimes it's like there should be better suburban service. There should be more urban rail. And I think that the urban rail is really important. I think that a city like Toronto, for example, I would say Sydney beats Toronto today on rail service overall. Like the Toronto subway is excellent, but in Sydney you can just go to a lot of places on rail, and the suburban rail is really good. But I think Toronto will probably beat Sydney once all the projects we have underway are done, because I think our suburban rail will be almost as good. It won't be as extensive, but the quality of it generally will be similar. But then Toronto also will have the streetcars, the really good suburban buses, all of the different BRT services, which Sydney just does not have all these BRT services everywhere. It has some, but not as many as Toronto. And, of course, all of the subway lines, which we're going to have, five-ish. And they're five that aren't just kind of converted suburban rail lines. They are really urban rail. And I think having that connectivity, that non-downtown connectivity, which will be vastly better in Toronto than in Sydney, and obviously in Sydney it's already vastly better than Melbourne, I think that'll be a big deal. Have you ever considered doing transit reviews on lesser-known big cities in America, like Charlotte, Atlanta, Phoenix, or Minneapolis? I actually used to have videos on Phoenix and Minneapolis years and years ago. So if you remember those, they were taken down because they were just not up to snuff. Like this was 5 years ago. You would have seen those though if you were following me 5 years ago. I don't really want to cover those American cities. It's not to be rude, but I really don't think other cities have basically anything to learn from them in general. I actually am going to be talking about Phoenix in a video soon, but it's not really meant to be a review of Phoenix. It's more just Phoenix will be talked about. It's not really it's not super positive on Phoenix, but yeah, ultimately I just don't. It's not interesting to me. If you were from one of those cities, it would be interesting to say, hey, like maybe we don't have the greatest system right now, but here's how it could be improved. Like for MARTA, for example, in Atlanta, a system I have used. I've used all of those systems actually. MARTA could be really good, but I don't believe there's any plans to expand MARTA. Even though Atlanta is booming and there's all of this suburban development, MARTA could go way out into the suburbs like the DC Metro does, for example. It could be great, but it doesn't seem like any money's being spent. And at the same time, people often ask or talk about, they say like, why does the cost of transit projects matter? That is why. Part of the reason that some of these cities don't build much transit is because the cost is high, and thus it's very hard to convince voters and politicians that they should spend money on the projects. If the projects were way cheaper, then they'd be like, oh, well, yeah, I could get a train for this price. Well, then it's worth it. So I don't know if I'd say the MARTA is elite at its core. It doesn't have platform screen doors. The service still isn't as frequent as it should be. So, yeah. And I wouldn't say I only review cities with good transit systems. I just don't think... I think with a lot of these systems, like Charlotte, like if I talked about Phoenix, I feel like Phoenix covers basically everything I would talk about Charlotte. Like they're both light rail systems. Or like Salt Lake City, right? And Salt Lake City is probably more interesting than Phoenix or Charlotte because that's the front runner and the, what is it called? The Sugar Town, the Sugar Loaf. streetcar line. Someone from Salt Lake may be in the chat and may say, "What did you say?" But yeah, that's has a lot of paramedics in Toronto tonight. What can I say? There is a remake of the New York City Subway Explainer coming out. The last New York City Subway Explainer, more than any other explainer before, I just wasn't happy with. I feel like it was too much of a robotic summary of what exists, and while you could watch it, I didn't feel like I put enough effort on highlighting the interesting things and not mentioning stuff that people aren't going to care about. And so the new one is meant to be much more interesting. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully soon it will come out. It's going to be quite a big video though. So yeah. So getting towards the end of the stream, I'm trying to think if there's anything I want to say. This is the last stream for 2022, so thank you everyone if you attended other streams, watched. Thanks for watching my videos, supporting the channel. It means a lot to me, and ultimately the reason I make these YouTube videos is it's not to make money. YouTube actually doesn't pay very well. It is to talk about things that I love, and getting to make videos and do this as a job, even if it's a huge privilege, and it's really exciting, and it's something that I really put all of my energy into, and I hope that the YouTube channel can continue far into the future. And that's part of why I don't necessarily even mean that. I just hope that the idea of RMTransit, like let's talk about cities around the world and their transit, I hope that can continue long into the future. And that's why I recommend that people follow on other platforms, so that if anything ever happens here, you can go find me over on the other platforms. And so it's good to just kind of get those things sorted sooner than later. Now, I'll respond to a few more questions, and then I'm going to call it a night. Now, I get that, so someone's saying Charlotte, or Jacob is saying, sorry, Jacob, Charlotte is seeing some pretty transformative TOD growth along the blue line, cranes everywhere, etc. That's good, but like TOD just doesn't have the impact of good service. Now, I'm not saying that Charlotte's service is non-existent, but for example, I was looking at Phoenix. I know Phoenix has a lot of TOD around its light rail line. But do I care? In that case, not a ton, because unfortunately, Phoenix runs its light rail every 20 minutes. If I lived in Phoenix, I would have a car. It would just be like 20-minute headways suck. And if you want to go somewhere, the light rail stopped operating at 11 at night, and it's just rough, right? And I say the light rail is 20 minutes. What are the buses going to be? If the light rail is every 20 minutes, the buses might operate once per hour, right? So it's just an experience where you're going to spend a lot of time sitting on the curb of Stroads waiting for trains and buses. And that just sounds like a bad experience that I wouldn't want, which is why I live in Toronto, a city that is frustrating for many reasons. But at the end of the day, if I go down to my local bus stop, a bus will show up fairly quickly most of the time. There is some bus bunching, but that's kind of because the buses are semi-frequent. I could walk to a streetcar line. I can walk to a subway line. Being able to do that, that's what it's about. As much as all the TOD in the world can be nice and it can be helpful, nothing competes with service, right? So I think it's really important to not overemphasize that. Like, yeah, TOD is great, and I think high density, less parking, which is important. If the TOD has tons of parking, then it's not, it's not helpful. But I think it's important that, like, some people are really obsessed with land use. They think that, like, if land use is bad, transit can't happen, and if land use is good, transit doesn't matter. Unless your land use just, it can be as great as you want, but if you do not provide good service, people just drive or walk or do something else. It needs to be roughly probably every 10, maybe every 15 minutes, but more likely every 10 minutes to actually attract riders. And it can't end at 7 p.m. Someone was mentioning to me, like, oh, this bus line in Chicago operates until somewhat frequently until 7 p.m. and then it becomes incredibly infrequent. I'm sorry, I don't know about you, but sometimes I want to go to places after 7 p.m. I don't sleep at 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. at night. I do sometimes go places, and so frequency like that would just suck, right? Can you imagine if your car wouldn't start after 7 p.m. or if it would like only drive 5 kilometers per hour? It would be really bad, right? People wouldn't drive very much, just like people don't ride transit very much in places where transit service is so bad. So yeah, sort of a bit of a rant, but I'm actually going to do a video. It's a bit of a jab at some people who have bothered me recently, and what it is it's talking about 2 cities. Okay, I'm going to talk about one city, super car oriented. It has rail transit, because actually, even the really car oriented cities like Phoenix in the U.S. do have rail transit. But I'm going to talk about that, and I'm going to talk about a city that has an incredible transit system, definitely world class, one of the best out there. And what I think is interesting is that in the city with world-class transit, if you really want to drive, you still can. If you want to drive somewhere, you can drive wherever you want, for the most part. Of course, there are places where it's transit only, but for the most part, you can go where you want by car. You can also go via transit. It's very easy, very inexpensive. But in the city that is very car-oriented, yeah, you can go anywhere via car, but it's not like traffic has been solved, right? There's a ton of traffic. There's loads of highways, and you can't go basically anywhere by transit. So in a city designed around transit, you can drive, but you can also use transit, and the transit is excellent. And in a city designed around cars, you can drive, and you can't really use transit, and the driving is still bad. So this is why transit is important, and I think it'll be a fun video to do. The cities both have around 7 million people, so maybe you can guess what the great transit city is and what the great driving city is. Great. So yeah, and it's not Phoenix and Amsterdam. I think Amsterdam is overhyped these days. I think Amsterdam's a good city, but I think people think Amsterdam is like the greatest city in the world, and I don't think so. Like, Amsterdam is a great city, don't get me wrong. It's just that there's a bit too much, like, let's go on the brakes. The stuff being closed too early, and some of the food, like, the food is just not, in my opinion, the food in Toronto is better than Amsterdam. Things like that. There are just lots of elements to cities that don't get included. It's not LA and Paris, but people are going to guess it at this point. Basel. Oh, well, someone has guessed one of the cities. One of the cities is Houston. Yeah. It's not Berlin. It's not London. Let's see. I'm so curious. Okay, Houston doesn't have all that much traffic tonight. There are some road closures, though. Remember, I said both of the cities have around 7 million people, which I don't think Berlin has 7 million people. Oh, I think... Sorry, Dean, I missed your super chat here, but I will respond to it now, and thank you for it. Do you think that integrating all GTA transit under Metrolinx would benefit the rider experience or make it worse? I think it would make it worse, but I think that the idea of having a single agency would make it better. So, bit of a controversial take maybe, but I think the idea of unification of the transit systems, or at least some greater form of integration through like a regional agency, should happen. I'm just not sure the agency should be Metrolinx. The food in Toronto is way better in Toronto than Amsterdam. A lot of people are saying it. People have said, I don't know. Houston and Victoria. Victoria, also not a city of 7 million people. Yes, Houston does have a problem. I've already said one is Houston, so the other one is the good city, and it's not London. Houston's the bad city. It's the driving city. The good city is not London, though, and it's not Berlin, because it's also around 7 million people. Yeah, Yeah, Dean is a bit of a goat for purchasing a super chat for someone else's comment, but I guess Dean was interested in hearing about it. Ionic Oatmeal sent a super chat. Thank you, Ionic Oatmeal. If you have a question or something, please do let me know. I don't think I've seen like a separate message here. I'm just looking. If you do have one, just resend it. It's not that what's wrong with Metrolinx. My point is not that there's something wrong with Metrolinx. I just don't think that Metrolinx is equipped to do that, right? Like, the point was not for them to do that, and so I just don't think the organization is really set up for that. Hoo, Mr. Mime nailed it. It's Huston in Hong Kong. Yeah, Huston. Yeah. I think it's so perfect though, right? Because Houston is highway heaven and Hong Kong is transit heaven. But yet Hong Kong still has lots of highways and lots of roads all over the place. And at the same time, Houston does have transit. It's just really lacking. There's, like 2 or 3 light rail lines and some buses, right? And not the greatest bus service either. My opinion on the Sepulveda line in LA. Thank you for the super chat, Night Train 23. The Sepulveda line is an important project. Should not be a monorail. I love that has to be said. Yes, Line 2 in Toronto on Danforth is not on Danforth, but it is directly adjacent to Danforth. Houston and Hong Kong are both very humid. Well, there you go. Hong Kong does have some goated buses. That is a great way of putting it. Yeah, the buses in Hong Kong are wonderful, and they really do deserve more appreciation, including on my channel. I need to make like a dedicated Hong Kong has great buses video. Yeah. Let me just look here. So I think that is probably it for today. I appreciate everyone. Sepulveda demands Shwebi Bon. Any places to recommend to visit in the Netherlands? Well, you should visit, because the Netherlands does a lot of stuff really well. I just don't think it does everything really well. My thoughts on the Bloryang expansion is that it better have platform screen doors. It costs way too much money, even with, but at the price we're paying, it better have platform screen doors. What college at U of T are you at? I'm not at U of T. I graduated, but I was at St. Michael's. Yay, fun. I should have probably applied to a different college, but I was close to the subway, so that was convenient. Strange how Switzerland's transit can get in the way of bike infrastructure. Do you think something should be done? Well, maybe Switzerland should get on building some metro systems so it doesn't have to have tram tracks everywhere. That might help. When Toronto finishes the Ontario line, what's next? Finish the Shepherd line, I would say. And then maybe another downtown line. Maybe an S-train tunnel type thing for GO. Yeah. Okay, I think that's probably it for tonight. Thanks everyone for coming. I really appreciate it. Thank you for watching the channel. In 2022, it was really appreciated. Yeah, all the streams are available as VOD after, so if you didn't watch the whole thing, you can watch the whole thing. Yes, Hong Kong's trams are double-deck, single-truck, and narrow gauge. It is very interesting. Yeah, they deserve a video. I gotta make a video. Yes, thank you everyone. I appreciate it a lot. No, Toronto will finish the Ontario line in 2030-ish, I think. I am casting some shade. Switzerland is not immune. You know, I that's one video I should have mentioned. I like the things that even good systems get wrong, because there are things that there's too much hero worship. There are problems with every transit system, and so yeah. But thank you everyone. I appreciate it immensely that you watched my videos and came and hung out on the stream. Have a great holiday. Hang out with your family and friends and relax. And maybe watch some transit videos. Maybe ride some transit to different events and stuff. So yeah, thanks everyone.